Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. The biggest news of the day in the backdrop of the special intensive role revision which is taking place in the state of Bihar. You've had the opposition which is now raising the call of boycotting election. Well, the narrative played out from the Bihar Assembly all the way to the Parliament in New Delhi. All of this in the backdrop, viewers, of 28th of July when the top court of the country will hear the matter again.
मोदी सरकार वोट बंदी नहीं चलेगी नहीं चलेगी नहीं चलेगी वापस लो
It's a controversy that's being binned off quite literally. Opposition parties led by Congress leaders Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi protested outside Parliament on Friday over the revision of voters list in Bihar. Congress MP and leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, along with his sister and other India bloc MPs, symbolically tore up the SIR form and threw it into a dustbin inside the parliament complex.
Right behind me, you can see the visuals of Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Ram Gopal Yadav, and various other leaders of India bloc who are protesting on the issue of SIR. They are raising the slogans like SIR, वापस लो, तानाशाही नहीं चलेगी. So this is the issue which the India bloc has been raising.
उनका मंशा है कि गरीबों को वोटिंग से निकाल देना और वो खुद ये चाहते हैं कि एलाइट लोग ही वोट देना. डर के मारे आज ये रिवाइज करने की जो कोशिश कर रहे हैं ये बहुत बुरी बात है. वो अपने हुकूमत को बचाने के लिए बहुत से चीजें कर रहे हैं.
They should respond to the allegations. They should provide us with what we are asking for. Why are they not providing voters lists? It should be a transparent, it's a democracy. All political parties should have access to that information. So why is it not being provided?
इलेक्शन कमीशन मनमानी कर रहा है क्योंकि सरकार के कहने पे चल रहा है और जो फ्री एंड फेयर इलेक्शन का जो पूरे देश में जो मामला है कहीं ना कहीं जो डेमोक्रेटिक सेटअप है देश को उसको ठेस पहुंचाने का काम ये सरकार कर रही है. हम सुनने में आ रहा है लगभग 45 to 50 लाख वोटर्स पे इसका असर पड़ेगा और इसको ही पारदर्शिता इलेक्शन कमीशन द्वारा नहीं दिखाई जा रही.
और विशेष रूप से
This followed a ruckus in Lok Sabha by opposition members for the fourth day in a row over alleged irregularities in the Bihar voter rolls. Opposition MPs stormed the well of the House, raised slogans and demanded an immediate discussion on the issue, forcing the Speaker to adjourn.
आप सदन नहीं चलाना चाहते, सदन में चर्चा नहीं करना चाहते, सदन की कार्रवाई आज 2 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है.
In a bid to restore order and ensure smooth functioning of the House, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla even called an all-party meeting. According to sources, a consensus was reached during the meeting that the proceedings of the lower house will run smoothly and as per schedule from Monday onwards. But for today, there was no immediate breakthrough that could be achieved inside the house. Union Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal's speech was disrupted by massive sloganeering by the opposition.
या सदन में आपको जनता के दुख और तकलीफों के बारे में सदन में आप चर्चा करें इसकी अपेक्षा रखना चाहते हैं. आपका रिकॉर्ड पे क्या जाए.
With no let-up in the ruckus, both houses of parliament will now resume business on Monday when the monsoon session resumes.
इस गतिरोध का कारण क्या है. आप सरकार से जवाब मांग रहे हैं, आप सरकार से जवाब चाहते हैं, सरकार जवाब देने के लिए तैयार है, सरकार जवाब देने के लिए तैयार है. मैं कह रहा हूं अर्जुन राम मेघवाल जी, आप जवाब दीजिए, ये तैयार है. तो जब काशवा जी, जब सरकार जवाब देने के लिए संजय जी जब सवाल मांग रहे हैं और जवाब देने के लिए तैयार है.
Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister Rijiju appealed to the opposition to not create ruckus and ensure a smooth functioning of the House.
मैं फिर से पुकारना चाहता हूं सारे ऑपोजिशन पार्टी को कि जो आपने मांग किए हैं, सरकार ने एग्री किया है, तो और आगे चल करके पार्लियामेंट सेशन को डिस्टर्ब ना करें.
Meanwhile, protests also rocked the Bihar Assembly in Patna, with opposition leaders protesting outside the assembly. Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me this evening, Sanjay Kumar, co-director, Lok Niti CSDS, psephologist, Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist, looking at the developments in Bihar very closely, Ashutosh, author, political analyst, Manisha Priyam, political analyst, Ratan Sharda, political commentator. Right off the bat, Manisha Priyam, with what you are witnessing right now, there is this, of course, massive politicking around the role revision exercise that is taking place. What do you reckon could be the ramifications of it politically?
So I do think that what should have been an exercise in, as one of the countdown to the conduct of free and fair polls in Bihar, which are due in a couple of months from now, just ahead of the festive season. I do think there's a lot of noise around this, and I wouldn't call it politicking at this point of time. It's an issue of public anxiety because it's become a train where all must change. Nobody quite understands as to what is the fate of the paper they've given. Remember, in poorer states such as Bihar, the state that I belong to, having a voter ID card by itself is considered a matter of comfort, a matter of belonging, and where it's a land of dispossession, landholdings are very small. Even the so-called rich, even people like me, actually don't own much land. So for us, the sense of belonging is कि हमारा घर यहाँ है. Now, I think the one thing that I sense amongst the people is the sense of discomfort, the unease as to what is going to be our fate, what is being asked of us. So I see, forget the politicking, I see almost every political party at the grassroots level in villages coming around to people and saying, "आपका कुछ नहीं होगा, आप घबराइए मत." Now, what is the process that has to be gone into? Is the time adequate? Is this paper adequate? Why am I being asked to do all this? So I think forget the political parties. The election commission does have a responsibility to political parties, but the election commission needs to speak to the people of Bihar and needs to make them understand what is the process
No,
they're
you're right
going
there.
through. You cannot
True.
shirk this off by saying, "Oh, he's doing politicking." What will political parties do except politicking? And let
No,
me
fair
tell
point.
you, yeah,
No, fair
sure.
point, Manisha ji. The fact is, number one, the Election Commission, high time that the EC came out, addressed a press conference, allaying fears, for more than anyone, the voters there, because we have had ground reporters over the course of the last 2 weeks constantly picking up on what you speak of, which is voter anxiety. The politics around it, understandable right now. How it will impact the polls is a different question. But Sanjay Kumar, and I want to bring Amitabh Tiwari into this conversation first. About 61 lakh voters are at risk of disenfranchisement. That in itself, Sanjay Kumar, if you look at the larger number in terms of the entire electorate of the state of Bihar, is huge.
So certainly, you have already cited the number. Roughly, there is an estimate that we have 7.5 or 7.4 crores voters. And if you look at out of that, 60 names of 60 lakh voters are going to be stuck. So this is a sizable number. And all the calculations suggest if you divide it by the number of constituencies, assembly constituencies, it amounts to roughly 23,000 voters per assembly constituency. In a tight contest like what we had in 2020 assembly elections, where the defeat and the victory margin for the entire state was few thousand votes. This can be very, very decisive. Getting the name of 61 lakh voters stuck is going to be very crucial when the elections takes place in a couple of months' time.
Amitabh Tiwari, would you want to weigh in on this? Because, with what we started off, the politics around it, noises now for the first time coming in from the Gathbandhan, suggesting that if this continues, there's going to be a boycott of polls. I want to just tell our viewers, all of this is taking place in the backdrop of the top court hearing the matter. The entire SIR, the special intensive role revision in Bihar, is being challenged by multiple agencies along with political parties in the top court of the country. So that verdict still awaited. But Amitabh Tiwari, would you want to weigh in on this?
No, essentially, it has been a controversial issue, and I think, but the politics has moved beyond now the identity documents required and whether we need Aadhaar or not. The politics has now boil down to the number of deletions. However, two, three things are very pertinent here is that out of the 61 lakh people who have been deleted or whose names are proposed to be deleted, 18 have dead according to the election commission and 28 lakhs have moved permanently out of the state. So, see, unless the opposition proves or has this inkling that a majority portion or significant number of people out of this 46 lakh people have not died or are alive and or have not moved out of the state, I think then it's a very normal deletion, correct? Because actually the number of people, or rather the number of people who die and people who are normally not resident are excluded from the voter list in any summary revision. The argument could be that why would you need a a special intensive revision if you just had to remove people who have died and people who have moved out? Because
Which was
ideally
already done in
this should
January this
have
year.
been, yeah, ideally this should have been removed in a summary revision itself. So were these people alive, these 18 lakh, when they voted in 2024, or have these people died in this last, let's say, 1 year? Were these people alive
But Amitabh ji, not
in
just 1 year,
2020?
because a summary revision took place in January 2025. It concluded then. So we are actually talking about just a couple of months from then.
Correct. So it can be an error that they were dead, but perhaps still remained on the rolls. So if they remained on the rolls, did they vote, etc. So it's a very complex exercise now. Now the election commission, of course, needs to put a list out of who are the people who are going to be excluded or proposed to be excluded, and needs to transparently share it with all the political parties, that if they have issues or if they can bring in people who have been illegitimately removed from the list, they can be brought back to the list, because the number C is huge. However, if you trickle it down to per booth, so per seat is around 22 to 23,000, which means per booth is 70-75 people who are likely to be excluded, correct? And with the
But that is, you know, but
ground
that
presence
is,
of RJD,
Amitabh ji, if we are unilaterally addressing it booth by booth, but ultimately that's not what's happening on ground. Empirical evidence right now suggests by our reporters that there are certain areas where there is higher scale of disenfranchisement than others.
that's what I'm saying. This list has to be made public, correct? Then we'll come to know out of which assembly segment these voters are, which region these voters are, which caste group these voters are. And then the not only the people, but also the political parties uh, need to have time to challenge this. Now, that's the bigger question, whether they have the time or not, because now we have a window of less than 3 months, and that is what the Supreme Court is likely to decide upon on
Right.
July 28th. But what I'm trying to say is that this 46 lakh people, if they have moved out on and or are dead, then anyways, whether they remained on the electoral roll or not, would not have made any difference on the turnout if these exclusions are genuine.
Ratan Chadda ji, the fact is there can be a Mahagathbandhan versus the incumbent, but the collateral clearly, as even Manisha ji pointed out, are the voters of Bihar, and it's acute voter anxiety right now where most Bihar voters are concerned. The fact, Ratan Chadda, is the credibility of the EC is on the line. The credibility of the EC of number of surveys that have been conducted has only been falling. The opposition constantly attacking the EC. The government and the BJP, instead of defending the EC, because EC is clearly a constitutional unit functioning on its own, defending the EC should ask for the EC to come out with a press conference, allay all fears, because if for the first time source-based information from the EC continues to trickle down, then there's cause for concern where the credibility of the institution comes into being.
When you keep on attacking the constitutional authorities like EC over years, naturally there'll be some fallout. You remember the EVM cry where after every election there is talk about EVM being corrupted, etc. And you just let it pass. Now, ECI being a typical bureaucratic party has not been good at communication. That has been the failure of the government, that this has not been explained properly. Now, coming to the main issue, crux of the matter is the time. Anybody sitting here, is he making a case that there should be no electoral revision? Are we saying that Aadhaar card, which has got oversaturation of more than 20% in many districts, should not be questioned? Are you saying that anybody who comes to India can become a voter, and that is why we are opposing? The reason for opposing SR, if opposition had said that we are worried
Ratanji, if you
about
allow
timing.
me a rebuttal, I want to ask you this oversaturation of Aadhaar that we speak so openly of, where has this data been extrapolated? Because the census hasn't taken place. How do we know there is an oversaturation of Aadhaar in certain areas
Ju-
like Simachal? On what
Just like
basis
you,
is this number?
just like you have certain numbers, there are numbers floating in the on the social media and the newspapers.
But
Am
sir,
I
we
going to
can't
go
take
and check
social
somebody?
media
But
as
should
the
I know
benchmark
whether
of
it's not
credible
just social?
numbers, sir.
There are news reports also. So are we going to question everything? Are you going to question whether 50 lakh over numbers are there or not? It is clearly there is
So I would reckon
oversaturation of Aadhaar
journalistic
card.
inquisition should
Yeah,
demand
please
that.
go
And
ahead
I
and
would think you
yes,
would also demand it.
you should demand. I would demand. You also demand. Rather than questioning me, question the people or the news which says there is oversaturation. Let
Fair
somebody
point.
respond saying there is nothing. Why don't you investigate? That is the job of the news channels. So my question is whether the opposition is opposing it because there is less time or they don't want to detect people are not fit to be citizens of this country and cannot vote. That is the question which is being rallied around. That is the question is saying why disenfranchise people if the people are not even were not even right voters, then why should you question it? Which nation has such an open door policy that anybody can come and become voter? My question is revision could have been started earlier. My question is it should be there all over the country. Why not? And there should be a better way of doing it rather than trying to push it down in such a short time and not responding to questions.
Fair point, sir. I want to bring in Ashutosh into this conversation. I just, because there is a contentious point because everyone who is quoting the SIR, which is taking place in Bihar as a great exercise, quotes the example of oversaturation of Aadhaar in certain regions like Simachal. The basic question of that is we haven't had a census. Where has that oversaturation, 50%, 80% saturation, 120% saturation data has come from is a question one needs to ask. But Ashutosh ji, there's a credible point that even Ratan Sharja ji has made. There is voter anxiety clearly, but there are also lots of voters in various pockets of Bihar that are welcoming an exercise what they thought was a long time in the coming.
See, Preeti, in this entire exercise, we are missing woods out of the trees. Today the matter has moved beyond SIR. Today the matter has moved beyond Election Commission. Today the matter has moved beyond the electoral process. We have to understand this. The job of the Election Commission is not only to conduct election, but it is seen to be conducted in free, fair and independent manner, in a transparent manner. There are the three stakeholders, serious stakeholders in the election. One is opposition, another is a government, and third is people. And if out of the three, if the one has a problem with serious problem with this, then Election Commission has no other business than to address those concerns. Today, the entire opposition is on its feet. And if entire opposition is on its feet and the Tejasvi Yadav, the principal opposition party in Bihar, is saying that they are thinking in terms of boycotting the election, then the credibility of the whole election, whole process goes for a toss. Even if you conduct an election, nobody is going to believe this. So the fact of the matter is that the deep distrust is emerging about the electoral process, and that will damage Indian democracy in the long term. I fail to understand how a bureaucrats sitting in the election commission is not only tarnishing the image of the election process, but they are also contributing in tarnishing the image of the whole Indian democracy globally. Now the question is asked. Opposition is a serious question. That question can be wrong. I completely agree with that. Can be totally wrong. But if they have questions, if they have doubts, if they have problems with that, then that needs to be addressed, and this whole process has to be scrapped. This bulldozing thing, the new phenomenon which has emerged in Indian democracy in the last few years, that I'll bulldoze everything, come what may. We are bulldozing at the cost of the democracy. So forget about SIR, forget about election process. This democracy cannot be bulldozed like this, and opposition has to be taken in confidence.
All right. Ashutosh ji, before I go back to Manisha Prem, I want to ask you one question, because 28th is when the top court of the country is hearing the matter, multiple challenges to the SIR taking place in Bihar. The question is whether or not the court delinks the process from the Bihar election, because there is a possibility, that's an option that the court could exercise, that allow the process to happen, but delink it from the Bihar election. Do you reckon the polarization, the job technically is done in terms of polarizing the state of Bihar?
So see, as I said, Polarization, in my
Ma'am,
opinion,
I'll
is
go
not
to
an
him
issue.
first, I'll come to you later. Yes, make your point.
Polarization, in my opinion, is not an issue at all. Please understand this. CSDS has done survey, and the CSDS data categorically said the credibility of election commission is going down with every election. If the credibility of election commission is going down with every election, people will ask questioning. People will ask questions whether the election conducted and the political party who emerges as victorious, whether they are victorious with good with transparent means, with the fair means, our election has been manipulated. So
All
if
right.
the
So you're saying
perception
larger
growing, the
questions
election
are
is
going to
being
be raising.
manipulated.
Polarization is going to be eclipsed in all of this. Larger questions on the functionality of our democracy are going to be raised. Manisha, Priyam, to get you into this conversation, Ratanji, I'll come back to you as well. I know you want to make a point. But Manisha ji, the fact is, do you know, the whole talk of we will boycott the elections, we had heard it in the beginning, you know, small murmurs of that in the beginning of 2024 Lok Sabha elections as well, if you remember. And those times, these issues were raised on the conduct, again, of the EC. Once again, you have threats being raised that we will boycott the election. Do you think these are just empty threats, or these political parties could actually follow up on them?
So once again, I will come back to the basics of what I've said, which is fundamentally different from the approach taken by esteemed panelist Amitabh Tiwari ji. This is not about numbers. Maybe so many people are dead, maybe so many people have permanently shifted, but please realize that a large number of people of Bihar who are citizens of the state and who have been voting since times immemorial have peacefully assisted the process. And that is why today the election commission states it's a success, because people have gone through the process. And I would ask the people who have gone through the process, they have no idea of what the beginning, end, or rationale of the process is. Whether they go and film the form, does the BLO come? Please ask people if the BLO has come to their doorsteps. Where are the forms to be found?
No,
What
fair
is to
point.
be attached to the forms? Now, I will consider my exercise to be legitimate if I have been through these steps. Why is there a divide between the state and the people? There used to be a system where the BLOs used to come door to door and these things used to be asked. Now, we have spoken to many BLOs who have said that this is the stack. Very openly, they have said, these are the people who are dead. Sure, agreed. But the fact is, how do you know? Hum jayenge darwaje darwaje. Now, I already hear that people have the numbers of so many are deceased, so many. And the BLO is still saying that this is my stack. I will go and find out if these people are dead. I have gathered from secondary sources. So for me, the understanding is not clear as to who has matched unit level data with what, whether the people who have gone through the process are satisfied with this or not, rather than third party. Is the election commission wanting to do Jan Sunwais or not? Anything said in Hindi is not political. Jan Sunwai is not a political term. Panchayat is not a political term. Does the election commissioner or their officers want to talk to local mukhias or not? जो धोती पहनते हैं और मोटिया का कुर्ता पहनते हैं, वो लोग बाय डेफिनेशन पॉलिटिकल लोग नहीं होते हैं. अब पॉलिटिक्स करना कोई खराब बात नहीं है. दिन भर में मजदूरी थाप के और उसके बाद हम अपना फॉर्म भरते हैं. हम लोग खराब लोग नहीं होते हैं. हम लोग से बात कीजिए. हम लोग को क्यों समझना है कि हमसे समझिएगा नहीं. हम 50 लाख है कि 60 लाख है कि 7 करोड़ है, इससे हमको नहीं मतलब है. हमारा प्रोसेस अच्छा कीजिए. And I would want to conclude by saying that this pavitrata of election had come by a very controversial election commissioner called TN Session. For the first time, many dabangs who used to think they will loot elections, and one political leader had said, "Hey, Session ko tesan dhara denge." And I think the TN Session moment became the dividing line. And for deepening of democracy in Bihar, the Garib Gurbas went ahead and voted. That's the Garib Gurba on whom you want to construct the democracy. Just go back and construct it bit by bit. Don't tell us whether we are in the deceased or permanently migrated.
No, fair point. And I want to take final comments, and I want to go to Sanjay ji first. Sanjay ji, the sheer fact, you know, something that Ashutosh also touched upon, ultimately, there will be a question on the credibility of the EC. Till now, there's been stone cold silence other than source-based information, which once again is very new coming in from the EC. It's never quite happened earlier. But we touched on the 61 lakh figure. Amitabh ji also said that there are a lot of those are dead. You know, there are many displaced, missing.
Maybe they're dead.
But the fact, Sanjay ji, is also, if you look at the last elections, and you spoke of it in your earlier submission, seats were won and lost by a matter of hundreds and thousands. And a number like this could practically turn this election.
No, see, there are larger questions which other panelists are raising, and I agree with all those larger points. Manisha is talking about, the unease among the people. Imagine a day when people go out to vote on the election day, and when a very large number of people don't find their names on the electoral roll. What's going to happen? It's going to be a very public unrest. They will, there will be a lot of noise about that. So there are a large number of issues beyond just about victory and losses. But the question which you have raised is right. It was a tight election in 2020 assembly election. And it also seems, going by the current mood of the people of Bihar, it is heading for a tight election. And if it is a tight election, and we have been hearing about allegations about Maharashtra, Haryana, Delhi, much about Maharashtra, what has happened between, the Lok Sabha elections and assembly elections. So this is the kind of situation which is emerging in Bihar as well, which might emerge in Bihar as well, because large number of constituencies were decided, the victory and defeat were decided by few thousand votes. Almost 50 constituencies with less than 5,000 votes. And if it is affecting 24,000 votes each assembly constituency, this is going to have an impact on the electoral outcome also. And I think this is being anticipated by the opposition parties, and that's why they are making a noise. Right. There are larger issues. And I also agree with Sharda ji. I am personally not against revision. It should be done because we know that the quality of electoral rolls are bad, but not the way it is being carried out in Bihar, not in such a hurry. It should have been done at a leisurely, like in very, very systematic. So personally, I'm not against this revision, but the way it is being carried forward, I'm against that.
Fair point. I don't think anybody is really against the revision. Even the political parties that have spoken have made that very clear that we are not against the revision. It's about the timing of it as well. Final submissions, Amitabh ji, to bring you in, because all of this is taking place against at least what is right now a vocal threat of election boycott by opposition parties.
Yeah. So essentially, we have discussed in detail the reservations around SIR, the Aadhaar, the eligibility of Aadhaar, and also we have discussed at length how there is a very lax process or a loose process while enrolling new voters, and now Election Commission is coming up with a very tighter process for verification. So that needs to be solved, and we've also discussed in detail earlier that this needs to be an election nationwide exercise and not only specific to Bihar. Having said that, I think when political parties or RJD specifically is talking about boycotting of elections, see, Rahul Gandhi or the opposition have been talking about cheating by ECI, fixing by ECI, allegations of mass manipulation, etc. So what happens is that when you go into a match, before the match you are alleging that the referee is biased, correct? And still you are playing that match. That sort of dilutes your allegations, correct? That neutralizes whatever serious allegations you are making. So I would say that if the opposition parties feel that the election commission is favoring the government, is trying to manipulate voter list, is fixing the elections, then they should not participate, because by participating they are diluting their own allegations, and this could have larger ramifications, correct? Because election commission also needs to communicate well. Ratan Sharda ji also said so. It's all that, but we need to have a number. I think if unless illegal immigrants, which was the objective of this SIR, are removed, and we don't have that number yet. Out of 62, we don't know how many illegal immigrants are there. This could have been done in a normal summary revision as well.
No, fair point. And, ultimately a lot lies with the top court of the country on 28. There is a possibility that the court could delink the exercise from the Bihar elections. Over to you, Ratan Sharda, final comments.
See, what I wanted to tell was that this data that I gave is coming from the New Indian Express, which is not a social media. It's a very responsible newspaper. So there is some content in that. Secondly, I go back to think, are opposition really worried about the SIR's urgency, or are they worried about actually SIR being not fair? I doubt, because the way they are going about it, despite Supreme Court ruling, tells me they're much more worried. And can this idea that elections are tight, you should not go for SIR? I'm surprised the seasoned cephalogist like Sanjay ji is saying that Maharashtra mein gadbad hui, Haryana, Delhi ke bare mein doubt hua. These doubts are created by even people are winning or losing. What about doubt for a cephalogist to say that these are doubts and genuine doubts and there is
No, sir,
distrust about the system?
he said those were doubts which were put forth by the political parties. He was talking
No,
about
but
that,
then-
and CSDS
but can
has
we-
done a
should
number
we-
of surveys.
should
Let
we
Sanjay
carry
ji
on
come
with
in.
this?
Allow
Should we
Sanjay ji
carry
to
on
explain.
with this? Yeah.
No, I'll come.
I did
Sanjay ji,
not-
you want to
I
give
did-
minutes?
Yeah, I did not say that these are my doubts. I said these are the issues which have been discussed for the last few months. I did
Fair
not say
point.
that I doubt.
That is
Yes,
my
sir.
problem.
So there's a
that
there's a
we allow
distinction.
we allow these gossips to go on despite answers by the election commission, by the courts that everything is fair, everything has been taken care of, all boxes have been matched, all have been ticked. Despite that, they will keep on saying and create distrust among the people. That
But
is
sir,
their
even that matter is in court. That's the thing, right? So those issues will be raised, and I understand exactly where you come from, where you also made your point on where you got the data from. The intent wasn't questioning where you got the data from, sir, but the intent was there's so much misinformation today that is passed on as data. Basic question, if there is no, a survey or a census that has been conducted right now, where is the extrapolation on Aadhaar coming from? That's it. Make your point, sir. Finish.
It's fine. What I have to say, I've said that we must have these
Okay.
revisions, we must have intense revisions, and there can be much better way of doing it, but we cannot say because there is tight election, we should just avoid it.
Right.
That's not the answer.
I did
Very
not
quick.
say that this is a tight election. I said this might affect a tight election. I never said that this should be stopped. Right from the beginning, I said this must be done because the quality of electoral rolls are bad.
No, sir, I am
but-
not raising question about you. I am saying this is the general talk.
Okay.
I am not raising
No,
question to you. Yeah.
Sir, anyway, okay, final comments. Ashutosh ji, make your quick comments and then I'll close the bulletin.
See, about this Aadhaar saturation, I think let's understand this. In 2011, when the census was happened, the population was mapped something around 120 crores. In the last 14 years, this population has increased to 140 to 145 crores. So there is a jump at 20 to 25% into the population numbers. Now, if you map this, if your yardstick is 2011 census, and you will find a 20% rise. That's too normal. It's natural.
It's not everywhere.
So I think that's everywhere. If you go to every city, by that logic, in every city you will get Aadhaar numbers.
This report
more than
has missed.
20%.
All right, the fact is, Ashutosh ji, that's but that's a very immature way of extrapolation, right? You will also admit.
No. I'm only saying it. Don't make it the propaganda pound that the
Fair point.
Aadhaar saturation has been raised by 20%.
Right.
That
All right, I'm running out of time.
Basically, exclude. See, now what I want to make the point is, what is the purpose of this SIR? The purpose of SIR is to have a clean electoral rolls. That's so. If your motive is pious, then the process should also be pious.
Okay.
But if you're only talking about that end result should be good, end result will
Right.
be good if it's gone through the proper.
Okay, I'm
process,
going to
the
end it
pious
on that.
process.
All right, I appreciate all of you, for joining us. The issue is contentious. We did not have one political panelist deliberately, and yet there was fair amount of argument and debate. We're going to let it rest. The matter is in court, of course. In terms of politics, you can hear all the noise outside.